got some nice long hair.
Welcome back to the Unbearable Sports Podcast. I'm your host, Brad Barron. Ladies and gentlemen, we are 24 hours away from the Chicago Bears game against the 49ers. So if you're watching out there on YouTube, make sure to like and subscribe. If you're listening anywhere that you get your podcast, make sure to rate 5 stars. You can always just search for Unbearable Sports, and you can find the show everywhere. Also, we are continuing to raise money for the Thorn organization. So as long as you're listening, you're contributing. And also, you can rate the show 5 stars out on Apple Podcast. And for every 5-star rating that we get out there, I'll be donating an extra $1 to the Thorn organization that helps fight against child trafficking. So thank you guys so much. And I'm really excited for today's show. I felt like I didn't need to do this, but outside of doing this show, I'm an actual IT guy. So I love tech. I love going into the data, to the analytics. And I just thought it'd be so much fun for us to just predict the Bears, like what's going to happen with the schedule, not just use our own bias, but use machines, use AI to predict this. And also, it looks like Reload's going to be at the game tomorrow. Cheer loud, because I think that the Bears fans, we're going to be going crazy. So I know you're going to be going crazy too. So I'm excited. But what I wanted to do with today's show is I wanted us to be able to predict this. So I'm using what is from quarter4.io. This is a company that us at Belly Up Sports, we've partnered with. So I have a free premium subscription and kind of go through some of this. And there's so many cool tools. And that's why I wanted to kind of share it with you guys, to kind of go through some cool predictive features that they have and kind of predict what the Bears would do from an AI perspective as we sim some of these games. So similar to like Madden, if you've ever done that, but probably a lot more in depth than what Madden does, rather than just sim a bunch of randomly generated players. But before we get into that too, I want to just kind of, part of why I wanted to do this as well, besides just liking the numbers, was I saw like Cynthia Freeland. So for those that don't know, Cynthia Freeland's from NFL Network. She does something very similar to this, where she runs thousands of simulations and then she predicts what the team's going to do. For the Bears, she predicts 5.9 wins, which is not great. I mean, it's better than what a lot of other analysts kind of suggest, but Cynthia says 5.9. I also have PFF, another kind of heavy analytics team out there, has 5.8. But then you go to 538 and they're saying 7 wins. And also with Football Outsiders, they're saying the Bears would get 7.6 wins. And then with quarter4.io that we'll be going through today, they have the Bears at 7 wins as well. So what I'm getting at is, it seems like the more analytical you get, the more numbers oriented, now we start projecting more wins for the Bears, rather than those analysts out there that are saying 3, that are saying 4. We're getting all the way up to basically 6, 7, 8. So that's why it kind of hatched this idea. Let's do something fun and let's kind of go into it. So without further ado, let's get this started, because I know that there's college football on. I'm going live in a Saturday afternoon. I'm a Texas Longhorn fan, so I really hope that they can pull this off on Alabama. But let me kind of just show what we got going on here with quarter 4. So those listening, you won't be able to see this, but this is quarter 4. This is the kind of the display that you get when you have kind of these premium features. So what's kind of cool is I can kind of click on any of these games and see overall just the predictions. And quarter 4, they say out on Twitter, enables the entire sports betting ecosystem to provide AI-driven player-by-player insights, predictions, and analysis. So it's really based a lot on the betting market, and there's some really cool features, and that's why I want to showcase. Also, they're not technically a sponsor for today. We partner with them with Belly Up Sports. But let's kind of go through this a little bit. I'm going to go over to this premium features tab so that I can kind of pull open the premium features. And this, what I'm going to be using today, is in beta. So this is a great beta test, I got to say, going live and showing this off. But this is seriously one of the coolest features that I've seen. And that's also why I wanted to showcase this. It's called the Player Effect tool. And what this allows me to do is, so I can kind of throw in 2 teams, and then I can basically simulate them going against each other. And when I do something like that, what I'm able to do is I can sim this and I can add the teams in. And week 1, 49ers. And so I can add this. And now when I add these in, I can actually sim this game. And then after I kind of get this baseline for this simulation, I could actually say what happens when we remove George Kittle. So it's a pretty cool simulation that we got out here. And I'm looking out in the comments. We got TSS Fantasy out here talking a little bit smack, saying that we're going to go 0-17. We were going to have him on the show, but he decided to bail. He had a hurricane going on or something. But we'll definitely see Miami versus Chicago out here. And yeah, so let's first get this simulation, Bears versus the 49ers. Let's see what's going on. And so right now we're just simulating this. We're going to see what ends up happening. Ladies and gentlemen, I already like this thing already. We got 58.2% that the Chicago Bears win versus the San Francisco 49ers. That's not even including George Kittle being out. So what we can do is we can also remove George Kittle to see how that would affect the simulation. So for those watching, you can kind of see these different like the different quarterbacks that are out there. It's not saying that Justin Fields is going to have practically 300 yards and Trevor Siemian is. From what I'm gathering with this is it mostly says, what if Fields goes down? What if someone else goes in? Just to kind of see what's going on. We got a Dolphins fan saying that it's broken, so we shall see. But this is what it's predicting. So this is also a simulation. So when you look at the overall outcome that they have, they still predict the 49ers, but we're going off of simulations. 58.2, we have the better quarterback, and it's all about the quarterback here. So right now, AI is saying 1-0. So let's just do one other addition. I just want to see what happens when we say Kittle is no longer around. So let's remove George Kittle and let's simulate this again. Yet again, this is in beta, so we're testing this sucker out, but this is just such a cool tool that we had to do this. And yep, it raised our chances of winning by 0.2%, so 58.4% that we got out here. So we're going 1-0. That's what the data's saying. That's what they're suggesting. And yeah, I agree with Vincent out here. Lance's butt. Trey Lance, I don't believe in him. And for those that watched the show yesterday when we had Steph Sanchez on from 49K, she kind of talked about how Lance, it's the potential that they like with them. And so that's where with Jimmy Garoppolo out there, Jimmy is probably the better quarterback, but Trey Lance just needs to get there. So awesome. Let's move to our next game. This is going against the Green Bay Packers. Let me just pull open my schedule, my little hand-drawn schedule from the Chicago Bears. So what we're going to throw in here is we're going to go green. Actually, it's going to be Bears because we are away in Lambeau Field. So we're going to go Bears. We're going to go Green Bay. And I'm just going to throw this in and we will just kind of take this baseline and we are going to simulate. So while that's going on, this I'm a little bit nervous about. But guys, I swear I didn't have them program this beforehand. They got the Bears going 2-0. And keep in mind, too, when I was on the Bears Country podcast, they were saying, too, Bears going 2-0 as well. That's what they were suggesting. Right now, 53.9% in this simulation that the Bears win out here. So I know that we have a lot of non-Bears fans in the chat out here today, but yeah, right now they're still saying it. Yet again, anything can happen. So I'm already liking this. We're going 2-0 so far based on the machines. So what am I going to say besides rejecting this? So 2-0, let's go with that. And they're projecting 228 yards from Justin Fields, 281 from Aaron Rodgers. So I'm makes a lot of sense to me. 2.9 yards a rush for David Montgomery, but 3.7 from Khalil Herbert going against the Packers. So I'm liking this. I know TSS Fantasy out here with their Eagles and Miami Dolphins fandom. They are Um, yeah, this is what it's going with right now. That's where, hey, I'm not fighting this. I like this. So the next game that we have out on the schedule versus the Texans. So I'm going to go with the Chicago Bears. We are going to be at home. And now we have the Lovey Smith Texans. And let's simulate this and see what ends up happening. And yeah, we got if immunized Aaron Rodgers, then maybe. Yeah, I kind of question if Aaron Rodgers is going to be like I don't is he going to be drug tested before games as well now? Because since he's not since we know that he does drugs sometimes before games, I'm curious if there'll be like, Mr. Rodgers, we need you to pee in this cup. We just gotta test this out real quick. So for sure. But let's go through this. Bears, it just ran. Chicago Bears over the Houston Texans, 60.7% in the simulation. Right now, we're starting 3-0. And hey, if you start, I still think that the Bears win tomorrow. I know a lot of people in survivor pools, they are saying, well, they don't really believe in that. They're kind of taking the 49ers. To me, the Bears have a very good chance. They have the heart, they have the better quarterback, which is hard to say. We've never been able to say that from a Bears perspective. So we're going 3-0 right now. So far, so good. And I swear I didn't like put in that I'm a Bears fan beforehand, but here we go. Yeah, we can already just guarantee a Lambo a Lombardi trophy right now. But let's go to the next place. We got the Giants. It's at the New York Giants. So let's just put these guys in here. Watch. This is probably going to be the one that we end up losing. Even though it is going against Danny Dimes. Let's see. Let's simulate. To me, this is an easy game. Even though that I feel like the Giants play tight, I still feel 60.7% win for the Chicago Bears over the New York Giants, starting 4-0. Can you imagine that right now with it? All the talking heads that were like, they're only going to win 3 games, having 4-0 right now. This is what, yet again, this is what the simulations are projecting right now. Anything can happen. And right now, 60% for the Bears, 4-0. Let me just reset this real quick and we can kind of just go directly into the next game. So next game we have at Minnesota. So we got the Vikings, and let's see how this works. We're just going to throw in the Bears as well. And let's see what goes on. Yeah, I see a lot of comments out there that we're hoping the software is correct. We're hoping it is in beta. I think that some people from quarter4.io might be watching as well. So if there's any other questions, and here we go. The first loss out here is with the Minnesota Vikings, 67.3% with the Vikings over the Chicago Bears. Chicago Bears, 32.7% chance. So we end up losing this first game 4-0. I mean 4-1 right now. So there's the loss for the people out here that are we have a lot of other fans from the Chicago Bears out here in the chats. So right now 4-1 for the Chicago Bears based on this overall simulation. Not sure why the stats didn't show up. Maybe it couldn't compute that the Bears could lose a game. I think that's what it is. I think that's definitely what it is out here. So we're going in 4-1. The next game is against the Washington football team. They are still not the Commanders to me. They are still just the Washington football team. Kind of wish that they would have kept that name, to be honest with all of you guys. But let's go through this. It's going to be at home, Chicago Bears. Doran Whitefield, great point. Nagy 5-3 versus the Vikings. The Bears have been very good against the Vikings. The thing that I always get nervous about with the Vikings now this year is Akeem Hicks, because he was the big Viking killer, could always stuff Dalvin Cook no matter what, no matter how bad the defense or how good the defense was. If he was out there, he was going to stuff them. But let's throw in Washington and let's simulate this. I have a feeling now that we might get on a losing streak. Never mind. I take that back. 64.2%. The Bears beating the Washington Commanders. This is a game that I totally agree with. I think that the Bears are going to be going in here with a defensive focus with the Matt Eberflus defense, and Carson Wentz is going to screw up. He's going to mess up. I think what the Bears are going to do is they're going to take advantage of what the Commanders give them and ultimately make them pay. I mean, it does have just zero point 0.7 interceptions thrown by Carson Wentz, but the Bears elevate to 5-1. Let's switch over to the next week, and let me just pull up that handy dandy schedule. And right now we have New England. So let's kind of throw New England out here, and it's going to be at New England. So we have at the Patriots, and let's do Chicago. So we have Chicago Bears going to New England. So right now the Bears 5-1 based on simulations. This is just how exactly what it's going to be going. But yet again, we want to get a different dimension. We want to do something fun. And let's see what we got. Bears over Patriots. This is another game that I think in my prediction, I said that the Bears were going to lose this. But the Patriots aren't as good as a lot of people think. They've made so many different changes with the offensive game plan, with the defensive game plan. Right now, 6-1. Right now, we got pivots and divots saying this is wild. Pivots and divots. What team do you guys support? Because I know that you guys aren't Bears fans out there. So 6-1 for the Bears. Let's go. This is to me, this is exactly what's going to be going on. I'm excited for this, and it's cool too to see. Okay, Justin Fields 241. We haven't seen a lot of 200 plus games for a lot of our quarterbacks. David Montgomery, projected 4.2 average rush and 83 yards a carry. And yeah, so pivots and divots, a Patriots fan. So yeah, definitely little salt in the wound with that little projection right there for sure. But let's go over to the Dallas Cowboys and throw the Cowboys in. So the Bears going 6-0, going over to Dallas in Jerry's world. Let's see what ends up happening here. So simulating, and a second loss for us. A second loss for us. We have 55.6% chance that the Cowboys end up winning this based on these simulations. So right now, what we're seeing out of this, they're projecting with these simulations, Justin Fields with about 164 yards passing. And from a rushing perspective, 66 yards with David Montgomery. So it really looks like the Dallas Cowboys defense is what steps up and ultimately takes this game according to the simulation. But you know what? 6-2, boys, I guess we just have to go with this. We'll be 6-2 right now, and we will be going to the Dolphins. I hope that TSS Fantasy is out here, or they potentially shield their eyes depending on what goes on here. So we're going to be at home, So let me just select the Bears, and we have the Dolphins. Miami Dolphins. Let's see if they account for Tua's arm strength. Let's check this out. But what we got going on, Bears with the win at home, 7-2. I'll take this. I'll take this all day. And what I think is funny too is in the simulations, because since they project the different quarterbacks, Teddy Bridgewater they have with 289 yards and Tua with about 282. So not a lot of love for Tua with the simulation for sure. But Bears being elevated out there to 7-2. Now, 7-2 going into the halfway point in the season. And that's fine by me. I think ultimately, when you look at this, what could happen? It's the Justin Fields taking the next step. It's the offensive coordinator just making stuff happen. And I feel too, for anybody that watched when I predicted my own schedule, there's a lot of people out here that that was saying like we project a lot of wins for the Bears. So lots of fun comments out there that in the live chat right about now. But let's reset this and let's throw the Lions. So we are going against the Lions. Let's throw this out here. So week 10, we're going 7-2. And actually, never mind, it's a home game while the Lions are traveling. The kneecap biters of Dan Campbell, Detroit Lions coming out to play the Bears. Let's check this out. Pivots and Divots have a good point out here. Is offensive line factored into this? Because that could be something. That's actually a really, really good point, because the weak spot of the Bears is that offensive line. We have some, even though that NFL Network and ESPN say not, Bears have some weapons with Mooney and Kmet, Byron Pringle with David Montgomery. So Bears take another game, 67.7 win over the Detroit Lions. This is fair. Obviously, it's Detroit, and I don't even know what the Matt Nagy record against Detroit was. But let's go 8-2. What filled out here? If we start 7-2, we're going to lose 8 straight. That seems about right. That seems definitely about right. I think that's called regressing to the mean. But I'm just having fun with this 8-2 that we got right now. We're going into week 11 at Atlanta. Let's see what the Atlanta Falcons have in store for us right now. Not about anybody else. I'm like, all right, we're going to probably win this. I would be shocked if we lose to the Atlanta Falcons with Marcus Mariota as the starting quarterback. And the results are back, 67%. Bears winning. Felipe Franks with only 147 yards, and Marcus Mariota with 152. So, ladies and gents, 9-2. Right now, I like these simulations, 9-2. We're feeling good. We're feeling good right about now, and let's see if we could just keep this thing going. Let's keep this thing going at the New York Jets. And this is where, too, for me, this is the easy part of the schedule. You got Lions, you got Atlanta, you got Jets, and then you get hit with the Packers. Keep in mind, too, every Chicago Bears head coach has won at least one time against the Packers in their first season. So let's simulate this. Jets, come on. We can't. Oh, my gosh. Yeah, this has got to be broken. Just kidding. We lose to the New York Jets 63-3. The mommy lover himself, Zach Wilson, going out here and beating us. So we are now 9-3. Unfortunately. Yeah. Anthony out here. It's broken. There's no way we can lose to the Jets. So I'm feeling good about this. This is where I just want to do something fun with this, see exactly what we got going on here. So out here now we're getting the regression, like what Beth is saying out. So 9-3, we'll take that any day of the week. And let's add in the Packers. So this is a home game against the Packers. Let's see if we're going to take both, or if we end up only winning one. Like that, Ryan? Yep. Man, I love football. But here we go. So see, Bears only take one against the Green Bay Packers. They end up losing to the Packers at home, a 59.1% win chance for the Green Bay Packers. And here we go. Now we have a losing streak, 9-4 for the Bears. So start off hot. Who's that? Torin Whitfield saying, here comes the regression. Regression's coming up now. 9-4 for the Bears so far, losing a couple, but now we head into the bye week. No chance to simulate that. 9-4, but now we got the Eagles. So let's do versus the Eagles. So at home, going against the Eagles. And me talking to a lot of different people out there, seeing you guys down in the comments too, I'm really, really high on the Eagles, but I know that a lot of other people aren't so much. And for those watching too, you might see my cat just pop up as well. She's been paying attention too. But 60.3% chance the Bears redeem themselves out of the bye week and end up beating the Philadelphia Eagles. So right now, ladies and gents, 10-4 going into the final 3 games of the season. And this to me is the hardest. I would be shocked with this. This would be crazy, but yet again, they do have to lose a game. We got the Buffalo Bills. Can you already crown them Super Bowl champions, right? Let's see what the Bears end up doing against the Buffalo Bills. I got the fingers crossed. Let's see what ends up happening. We end up losing to the Bills, 54.1% chance. So drops us down to 10-5. So let's go. 10-5 right now with the Bears. So let's see. Yep, Nano out here. Bills are unbeatable. I totally agree with that. The Bills, you cannot beat them. But we are 10-5. And honestly, the more that this is regressing out, the more that it goes to a lot of fans out there, like I said in the comments, that were saying 11, that were saying 12 on some of the other games out there. So it can happen. And this is why we want to just see every single data point that is possible. But let's so next we go to Detroit. Let's see if Dan Campbell can just get something out of his Hard Knocks group of Detroit Lions. Let's see what ends up going on. So simulating, it's thinking, but Dan Campbell is not going to get a victory against the Bears. Bears win in convincing fashion, 68.5%. So now we are at 11-5 for this Bears team. And let's just reset this and let's go with the last game. What are we thinking? The home game versus the Vikings. Let's see if we can kind of close this out. And if we lose, I'm just going to say that we're playing our starters. They must have just planned that in already. So let's see, at home against the Vikings, final game of this simulation. Vikings win convincingly, 67.3% to end the season 11-6. 11-6. Nano out there probably wins the NFC North with 11-6. Definitely wild card. So this was fun. This was a fun little exercise going through this. And I think at the beginning, it kind of took us off guard. But this is the reason why I wanted to run something like this. It gives us a different perspective of what potentially could happen. Gives us a different story with this team. Because when I go through this, we started off 4-0. 49ers, Green Bay, Texans, and New York Giants. And I kind of point back to when I was on the Bears Country podcast. That's actually how they project the Bears going. And so it might not be too far off because I think that the Bears beat the 49ers this weekend. And at Green Bay, you have a lot of Chicago Bears people out there. You have a lot of coaching staff that wants to beat Green Bay. This can't happen. Then after that, you go against the Texans, you go against the Giants, and those aren't that great of teams. So if your quarterback is firing in all cylinders and you're able to perform, quarterback's the most important position. You also, something that they might be accounting for as well, from the analytics perspective, if your quarterback can run, it gives you a whole nother dimension when you're talking about wins. Think about it when we had Mitch Trubisky. Mitch Trubisky could only throw to his first read, but because he could run the football, it made this entire thing so much more different. And because of that, it allowed the Bears to win because they have to account for his running ability. So that's why I think maybe that's where we're kind of going at with 4-0. Then we ended up losing to Minnesota. We ended up beating the Commanders. As long as we're beating Green Bay and the 49ers, it doesn't seem that far off, to be honest with you, from 4-1 if this team starts out hot and going 5-1 against the Commanders. Like I was saying too, New England, not that great. There's a lot of questions with this team. And the biggest question is, what is Belichick going to do with this team? Is he going to make this team appear better? And so that's why going through this, ending at 7-2 in the first 9 weeks, is it possible? Yeah, anything's possible, honestly. And there's some questions with every single team that you play. But then ending the season with a win against the Lions, a win against Atlanta, then a loss against the Jets, that's all doable. I think that the Bears are a better team than the Jets, but I know that anybody that's not a Bears fan watching this would say, well, you're not better than a lot of these other teams. But it's about the quarterback. It's about the position people around him. And the Packers, a loss there, and then going and ending the final 4 games of the Bears season, going 2-2 with the Eagles, Bills, Detroit, and Vikings. I know a lot of people had 11 wins, and that's where this is a way to get to 11 wins. Because if we are, this looks pretty good. Like when we're going through it, it was like, that might not happen. But going at the end of this, looking at it outside, this is something that can happen if the Bears start clicking and things go right. But guys, thank you. This was a lot of fun. It was really fun to just kind of go through this. Let me know what you think down in the comments. I was using quarter4.io. This is just one of their features. It was out in beta, and I wanted to test it out, wanted to see what it was able to do. But like I was saying, they have a lot of really cool like in-game analytics that they're really kind of heavily focused on with the in-game. They have all sorts of different sports out there, so definitely worth checking out. But like I said, this was a lot of fun. We got sports tomorrow. Also just answering a question out here. We have Dorian with, is Lucas Patrick going to start over Tevin Jenkins, and would that be a mistake? Answering that, I personally would not put Lucas Patrick out there. If it was like Cody Whitehair, I would put Cody Whitehair out there rather than Tevin Jenkins, because Cody Whitehair, we know, is a good guard in this league, really good guard in this league. And so it's a notable upstep. But I feel like with Lucas Patrick isn't like, oh my God, we're going to lose out on Lucas Patrick. It feels that way when he's at center, because I think you have a huge upgrade with him over Mustipher. But it sounds like he's been taking some snaps at guard. To me, it's like, just play Tevin. When Steph Sanchez was on from the 49ers show, she said what happened last year, you had a fully healthy Lucas Patrick and Eric Armstead whooped him. So you're not getting like this Eric Armstead neutralizer if Lucas Patrick ends up playing. To me, just go with the continuity, just go with Tevin. But great question. That's where I don't want them to kind of overthink it and just play a Lucas Patrick. So yeah, Nano called 11-6. So yeah, there we go. Like I said, a lot of people kind of, there was a handful of people projecting 11-6 when I did my prediction show. So just another thing kind of backing up some of those points out there. And then last question out here, Nano, can the Bears go after Odell Beckham? Well, hey, if they start off 7-2, he's probably going, I could maybe join this team. But I think that he's definitely Bills. I think there was a reason why he was at the Bills and Rams team, because the Bills and Rams game, because he's there for one, because they're celebrating the victory. They're celebrating the Super Bowl. But I think low key, he's out there scouting out his teams, because here's some of the 2 powerhouses that can go to the Super Bowl. He's definitely scouting them out, going, all right, where can I fit in? Where can I play? So that's why I think that he was also there too, just to kind of scout out teams. I think if he's going to sit out, and then whatever team's getting hot, whatever team might have an injury that has a good chance at a Super Bowl, I think he's just ring chasing right about now, especially because he was injured. So I think he'll chase a ring, stick with the team for 1 year, and end up going out. So ladies and gents, thank you guys so much. This was a lot of fun. I'll definitely come up with a couple other things that we can do throughout the season, just to kind of take a little bit of break from the normal like previews and post-game reviews. So thank you guys so much. Make sure to like and subscribe out there. Make sure to rate 5 stars wherever you get your podcast. And Unbearable Sports Podcast, we're out.
Yeah, she's got some nice long hair, and you know that she's a bad chick. Thank you for listening to this Belly Up Sports Podcast Network product. Some said we go belly up, so we made it our name, and we're still here.